Hello, my absolutely beautiful astrology soulmates. It's me, Stormie Grace, and I'm very excited to talk about what is coming up in the horoscope for November of 2021. In this particular podcast episode, we are going to take a general look at what's going on in the sky. And then, of course, I will be breaking it down per each sign in its own individual set of podcast episodes and videos if you are following on YouTube. Now, November gets to be a pretty exciting time in the sky, most specifically because we officially come into the space of eclipse season. And when we are doing eclipse season in the sky, these mark major turning points for us. But because this is also going to be an eclipse that actually takes us from one set of signs into the next set of signs, this is a powerful time to really be paying attention to what's going on, to the changes that are coming into our lives and how we participate with that. So of course, lots of cosmic information coming up. However, I want you to keep in mind that if you'd like something a little bit more in depth and you need to see the map, you'd like to see the breakdown that's actually happening visually in the sky, I will also offer that over on my YouTube channel in the monthly video for your particular sign. And I also cover both the new and the full moons of the month on that particular channel as well. As we jump into the November energy, we're going to see both the sun and Mars traveling in the energy of Scorpio. The sun bringing light, heat, life, and vitality to this area all the way until November 21st. And Mars has actually been pushing and moving in the Scorpio energy since October and will be here all the way until December. So we've got this energy here that is about drive. It is the exploration of vulnerability, of my deepest desires, passions, my fears, intimacy, sex, ambition, drive, where I want to push, where I want to power in and make myself known. Now, in the energy of Scorpio, we're also going to become aware and in touch with the space of our obsessions, our jealousies, our passions, our emotions, and its emotions to an extreme. And we're looking at, do these passions, drives, emotions, hungers that I have strengthen me? Do they put me in a position to have a win? Or are they still a hindrance where I need to look at the experience, the deep experience of this feeling, of this vulnerability, of this intimacy, and take it into a space that is much more productive? Mars is actually an energy because it just wants to go forward. Mars wants to move forward. Mars is fire in the body. It wants to burn clean any toxins that may be working against us. But as the sun is here also bringing a level of heat, we have to participate in the surrendering of our own toxicities. We have to surrender in aligning ourselves with the genuine desires that we have for ourselves. And sometimes finding the genuine desire that I want for myself simply can come from the space of understanding that I don't want something, and then beginning to create a space, no matter how fearful, how vulnerable I feel in that actually allows me to move towards it. And that will, in and of itself, put me in a position to have to say no to something or to let some kind of toxic energy free from my body. It's really an interesting energy. So as you're traveling here through November, especially this first half with that sun and Mars together, I would ask you, where do you feel like you are hindered back from your launch forward, from your forward motion? What do you feel like is toxic in your life that is continuing to burn off under this particular energy? Whether this be something that you feel like is an old trauma, an old emotion, an extreme emotion maybe that you've experienced, or something that just feels like it is not working and is out of alignment for you at this particular time. Now, we're also going to have a new moon happening in the energy of Scorpio as well, right at the beginning of the month on November 4th. Now, the new moon is our chance to plant our seeds of intention, but it's dark. We plant under the soil of magic, right? We're planting. We're vulnerable, we're open, we're tapped into our intuition and our own magic, and we plant them in this rich, fertile soil, and it is deep, it is passionate. This is Scorpio soil. We are planting them with vision, vulnerability, motivation, and waiting to see what is going to blossom on the other time. But because this is Scorpio energy, some of the things that I think are very important at this new moon, which also happens to be a dark time, is that we are paying attention to that side of us that is stopping us from actually moving ourselves into the light. We all have both light and both dark within us, which means that in this lifetime, we're going to have to address all of it, no matter how outlandish it is or how subtle it is. Because what happens, like we learn every single month from new moon to full moon, is that we plant and we move in the dark. And there's a sense of this new moon quality that is highly magical, but it is dark. I cannot see it. But by planting and moving and maneuvering in the dark, I make space to understand what I'm ready to adjust when this full moon comes around in the light. And I think our human nature is exactly the same. You cannot be fully human without the acknowledgement of all pieces of us, right? Now, in the Scorpio energy, while the sun is here, we've got this new moon going. We have planted this. We've planted our seeds of intention for what we'd like to blossom, what we'd like to experience next in the Scorpio area of our life. What is your true, deepest desire? We have this opportunity to also, Mars, take actions that are positive. Take actions that, despite what others think of them, we know to be healthier versions of ourselves. And I think that's a beautiful use of this particular moon, sun, Mars energy that we've got going on. Now, our messenger planet Mercury will continue throughout November to travel in the energy of Libra until the 5th. So it's just got a couple days. And keep in mind that Mercury is going to be leaving its full retrograde cycle as of November 2nd. Now, yes, it came out of retrograde on October 18th, but it needed to do that post-retrograde shadow time. So there may still have been some like Mercury retrograde hangover, and that should be clearing up around November 2nd. And then on the 5th, we will see Mercury move on and get into the energy of Scorpio as well. But before that, as Mercury is finishing its tour in this first 5 days in the energy of Libra, this is great for balance, for diplomacy, for creating some kind of harmony in your relationships, whether it's your business associates, people you are in collaboration or cooperation with, lovers, friends, yourself, religious experiences even, conversations with spirit. I think that this is a wonderful energy where Mercury, out of its retrograde, moving back at its normal speed, will help you create a diplomacy in this particular energy. Then after the 5th, as we see Mercury move into the energy of Scorpio, now we've got our minds in alignment with some of this desire, and we're conscious and we're present to the spaces and the places within ourselves that we are unconscious to. As Mercury moves in and brings the deliciousness of the mind, I think it has us asking these questions. Yes, why do I keep engaging in this particular behavior? I also think that Mercury helps to bring solution or answer or curiosity to us, getting deeper into the desires that we have. Well, I seem to want to make this kind of craft over and over and over again. How can I do that? How can I do it better? It's almost as if Mercury in this place can take the obsessive energy of Scorpio and lead it to ideas or strategies that are actually a lot more productive for us. But also, Mercury in this place, because Scorpio holds our space and our place for the shadow, I think for many people, it will be the time where you are hungry to investigate who and what you are and where these things that you've been fearful of are coming from. Maybe are they showing you and pointing you to your unconscious spaces? And on the other hand, this may also be a time for you in this season where the integration of your conscious unconscious, of healthy and aware, may be something that you feel like you cannot connect with yet, right? Now, wherever your lessons are taking you, as this beautiful messenger travels here, and Mercury is the only planet that can travel all the way to hell and all the way to heaven. So remember, you are mentally, physically, bodily, just a culmination of choices that you've been making, experiences that you've been having, and they are all a part of your lesson base. But there is no light without getting in to the delving of our darker selves, because that portion of ourselves needs to be shared, understood, maybe even assimilated and embraced within us, so that we can have this more healthy, productive, intuitive, honest experience as human beings. When we're pushing, tucking, trying to hide things away, trying to not step into the consciousness of realities that we're creating, this is when I think sometimes our lives become a lot more painful. So as Mercury moves into the energy of Scorpio, don't travel alone if you don't need to. If you're obsessed in a good way about a project, an idea, or a concept that's coming to reality, or you are obsessed in a fit of jealousy and possessiveness, there is a deep dive that is waiting for your attention, and a Mercury that is on and ready to help you put the patterns and pieces together. Take someone with you, whether it be a therapist, somebody who can see outside of your shadow self to help you shine a light on what is going on. Now, Venus, this beautiful goddess energy, is going to continue to travel in the energy of Sagittarius as we're coming in for the month. But on the 5th, she and Mercury they're out of Dodge. They're moving into the next sign. So on the 5th, we will see Venus move into the energy of Capricorn, and she's going to get prepared to take a retrograde in Capricorn as well. But first and foremost, we will experience Venus in the energy of Sagittarius, the creative, adventure in our love lives, our money, our values, our self-esteem, right? Our relationships have had a sense of optimism of let's do more, let's see more, let's be on fire about love, let's be on fire about adventure and exploration. Venus in Sagittarius, you have to let me know out there, but because it can be a little bit more pleasure-filled and optimistic, tends to bring people into our lives who also feed a sense of adventure that we have as well. It's easy. We can make space for interactions and people to come into our lives without needing them to commit to being there with us forever. They are simply truth bringers into our lives, and we get to be to them as well. It is a time where I even said this in the monthly videos, but Venus in Sagittarius brings your giggles to the surface, right? Allow laughter, allow things to not have to be so serious, and surrender to the energy of fun and pleasure and different ideas as Venus travels through the energy of Sagittarius. Now, when we get to November 5th and we see Venus move into the energy of Capricorn, all the way until March, okay? March of 2022. And this is a long stay for Venus because she's going to retrograde between December and January. So because she gets this moving forward, or this motion moving forward, and then needs to retrograde to return and review all of that, and then still come forward, we see Venus in this particular energy for some time. So this is immediately a signal to all of us that in the Capricorn areas of your chart, grab them and let's get into it, because Venus has got a long, slow tour to help us look over this particular area. Okay, this is going to be a major conversation that we're going to be having. So as Venus is in her direct motion moving through Capricorn here in the beginning, the seriousness, the weight, the maturity behind our relationships, business, finance, things that we are doing to achieve, all things that have to do with some idea of achievement will be on our table. Now, this is interesting to me too, because I think a lot about the steady engaged, long-term connectedness that Venus can also bring to the table. So in the energy of Capricorn, for many people, I think we will experience this energy that says, yes, you are entirely creative in this area, but you've got to get serious, slow down, focus in on the roots and the structures and the strategy that you're going to use to carry out your plan. Now, this is also not just in business, but Venus in Capricorn gets very serious about the partners that we are engaging with. You know, is this person in your life here for the long term? Are you building a space that is ready for somebody in a long-term mindset? Now, all of these things, from business, creative projects, relationships, your money, whatever you are building and you've been continuing to build, especially as Venus comes into Capricorn, you're going to review that during the Venus retrograde. You're going to review that whole area. And really what it comes down to is you've had a certain mindset, a certain belief, maybe even a certain way that you've been doing or approaching ideas of success. And you've got to go back over them and make sure that this is the right touch, the right fit. Keep in mind, we have seen Pluto traveling through the energy of Capricorn since 2008. The values and beliefs that you have in this particular area, some of them have been absolutely destroyed. Some of the relationships here have been absolutely destroyed. They have died off, but you have awakened in a new way. But maybe you've awakened in a new way, but some of those conflicts, hurts, ideas, connections are still there, and you'll get the opportunity to free yourself of them during this Venus retrograde by going back to that old friend, that old connection, that old financial belief. My goodness, yes, ex-partners show up during a Venus retrograde sometime, and you're able to go into it, bring closure, make peace, and allow the surrender and the transition to happen. So just know that this particular area of your chart where Capricorn's at is going to become really, really significant November 5th all the way until March 7th of 2022, and that all is kicking off right here in November. Okay, and then we're swinging and winging around over here to the monthly event, the lunar eclipse happening at 27 degrees of Taurus. Now, this is going to be happening November 19th. Now, a lunar eclipse, to have an eclipse, we've got to have the moon near a nodal point. Okay, now we're always talking about the nodes, and all planets have nodes, but this one we're talking about lunar nodes. Okay, and because the nodes represent collectively and personally kind of where the soul is trying to get to, what's the destiny, what are we moving towards? When we're looking at a lunar eclipse, it still has the wrapped up energy of a full moon, which says something has to be ended, acknowledged, or adjusted. But being in eclipse fashion, the alignment makes it more powerful. So instead of just feeling the energy for 4 weeks, we feel the energy for about 6 months, up to coming into a cycle of looking at where this was happening for you about 19 years ago. What were you starting 19 years ago in the Taurus areas of your chart? And now what are coming to a time of ending, right? Because the full moon is still a time of turning points, culminations. Sometimes what happens is it ends and we see a big achievement or a big award come to our table. But it is definitely a time where the vibration of the energy is very, very high and can be very emotional, but it can also be emotional in a really fulfilling way. Now, this particular lunation happening in the energy of Taurus, and this being, like we said, that first eclipse that's going to happen in Taurus, but we won't really experience those until we get into 2022. This one changing the axis just a little bit is about money, values, my possessions, my morals, my self-esteem, my ideas of love, marriage, beauty, art, my creative skills and talents. All of these things come to illuminate how these things are showing up in our lives. And because this is a full moon lunar eclipse, one of the things that I think is on the table for all of us is that this eclipse is saying, boom, we need to end, acknowledge, or adjust it's some ways that we've been living around money, values, morals, ideas of beauty, because something about that path that we've been living is not stable enough to hold up the current life that we are engaging in. Now, other things I think about is that Taurus is ruled by Venus, and this is a very sensual energy. So what is it about you personally in your life, in your business, that there is this need for sensuality to be addressed? Have you been working and going and grinding and stressing so hard in relationships that you're not even doing simple, basic beauty care things, really brushing those teeth, really moisturizing your skin, really hydrating, right? And life is life. Life is on life terms. Not everybody's sitting over here thinking about their moisturizer, but I'm telling you, for the next couple years, these are some needs that are about to be addressed. And it may sound shallow, and I assure you it is not. Because in a global way, we're going to have to look at things like currencies, stock markets. We're going to have to look at industries that govern beauty, right? We're going to look at real estate, property. All of these things on a global stage are going to take a shift. They are going to move, and they will illuminate the areas and the paths which even beauty, everyday beauty, taking in the idea of everyday beauty for us is not stable enough or needs to be adjusted. So I think this is going to be an interesting lunar eclipse over the next 6 months to see what we do in our lives to build stability, but also has this real energy of beauty to it. And also Venus is a magnetic and attracting energy. So where in your life are you working really, really hard for money, when instead you could be allowing it to be magnetized to you? You know, if you haven't had a chance to watch the Eat and Greet with Tara All, where we talk about planets on the first and having an experience with a planet a year, maybe 2022 is a phenomenal time, kicking off right here in November, to experience Venus, to get into the Venus vibration and see what it's like if you just let life attract things to you as opposed to having to chase them down all the time. How would this change your relationships? How would this change your money? For many people as well, they'll be beginning to really implement or grow their multiple streams of income, realizing that global currency is changing. So it'll be a really interesting lunar eclipse to see where we make these particular changes. Now, as we get to the 21st of November, we're going to see the sun pop into the energy of Sagittarius. Scorpio season has come to an end. And this energy, after being in the depths of the Scorpio vibration and dealing with all of the things that are down there, our vulnerabilities, our joint resources, our traumas, our shadow work, now we pop out into the space of optimism, of adventure, of playfulness, right? But we're stepping into this sun energy space where we've had the nodes and the eclipses happening in Gemini and Sagittarius since the summer of 2020. So this is an actually really big step for all of us here in November. The planets are out of retrograde except for Uranus and Neptune, right? And we're feeling this particular energy like I'm different. My world, my life, my culture is different. There is still a reason to celebrate. There is still a huge stepping towards new ideas, new identities, and away from old ideas and identities and philosophies that we used to be governed by, but they don't work for us anymore, right? It's an exciting energy when we get the sun into Sagittarius because, again, we want to go out and have these optimistic interactions. I always love sun in Sagittarius because I feel like I always get some surprising piece of news or information or connection, or I'll have a random meeting with somebody and it's like, that was absolutely delightful. And every single time what it does is it kicks me into position to think about broadening my horizons or opening my mind a little bit more in certain areas of my life and my chart. So I'll be excited to see what that has to offer as well. Now, as Mercury continues to move throughout the month and we get to the 24th and we see Mercury jump into that Sagittarian energy, I also just want to point this out. Sagittarius does not always like to be wrong. And in fact, it can be an energy that is like, no, it's still a fire energy. So it can be very direct, very abrupt, but it can be very much so like, no, my view is the correct view. So as Mercury does move into the energy of Sagittarius, I love the idea of expanding our horizons, being open-minded, but we have to also be mindful as Mercury makes this move, not to be the only right energy or the only right thought or opinion in the world. There has got to be space for all points of view, right? And because Sagittarius doesn't like to be wrong, we are happy to enter into the debate zone. So on the global stage, we'll see many times people saying mine is the only right opinion. And we may even hear it and see it happening, you know, at warp speed at this particular time. But personally, we want to remember that we can own our own space, own our own autonomy without putting down other people's opinions as well. And this will be a big practice as Mercury begins to travel here. I think that's very important to keep in mind as we move through this particular November timeframe. Now, we will also have Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn. Everybody's out of retrograde at this particular point, and we got to experience them coming out of retrograde like every week in October. So now as we're here in November and we've got these energies moving forward, we've got permission to go, you know, take our new innovations and move them forward. Science, technology, things that are about humanitarian causes globally. These will be important at that particular time. As well, Saturn out of retrograde is making sure that things are grounded, that we are going about them with a sense of long-lasting success and maturity. And I really think that Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn, as we travel throughout November, we really need to watch them and their work or their influence a lot on the global stage, because so much in terms of security, connectivity, science, technology, all of these things in this Aquarian and Capricorn energy, I think are going to continue to expand. And it's this idea almost that the internet that we know today, the new apps, the social media channels, just the internet, I think in general that we know today is not going to be the same internet that we interact with as we're in 2022, 2023. So for 2021, as we are finishing out this particular calendar year, I think that these big heavy hitting planets that govern, you know, global things, but also societal things are now out of retrograde, bringing effects that we can see, taste, touch, you know, and have an interaction with. The organization around the instrument, around the instruments, around the internet, around humanitarian things, social things, is going to be huge. And we will, of course, need to pay a lot of attention to where Saturn, I think, is also going to enforce a fair amount of restriction as well in our social spaces and places. So really interesting month here as we're traveling throughout November. Make sure you check out what's going on for your own individual sign. If you've not had a chance to pop over and join me on YouTube to check out these outer planets and what their influence is doing in these bigger signs, especially for us globally, please make sure you check that out. And as always, weekly videos are coming out. So there's always a little shot of what's going on in the cosmos available for you, okay? All right, my beautiful friends, I hope you have an absolutely gorgeous November. I look forward to seeing you on the other side, walking you through December of 2021 and getting us ready for all of 2022 as well. All right, my beautiful friends, I'll speak with you next time. Bye.